Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. Today, I've got with me Steve Urry from Forge Financial. He's one of the directors at Forge Financial. And one of the main reasons I wanted to get Steve on the podcast is he's in a very similar position to a lot of mortgage advisors out there at the minute. Ones that are on the journey, that are just on the cusp of building this big business. And ever since I started speaking to Steve earlier on this year, that was always one of his big goals. He started Forge Financial in June 2020, and by doing the things he's going to talk about in this podcast, he's now got a team of 13 people, and it's still growing from there as well. So we're going to get into how he finds good staff, what the background of the industry is, what processes he's putting in place. So if you're a mortgage broker sat there at the moment and saying, look, in 2.5 years, I want to have a team of 10 people, literally use this as your blueprint, guys. But anyway, I'm going to let Steve talk through all of his successes over the last 2 years. Steve, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm pleased to be on. Absolutely.
So you said that you went home from the office this afternoon to get a bit of peace and quiet, and there's 5 kids in the house having a party.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's 5 kids having a Halloween party. Absolutely.
So this one will be going out a bit further out of Halloween. So I'm sure they'll have done all their trick and treating. They'll all be fired up on sweets, mate. And you won't have slept a wink tonight.
Yeah, so apologies if there's any noise. I can hear lots of noise, but I'm pleased you guys can. So
no. Have you got a mic attached to the? Was it just one of the laptops?
It's just home PC. Yeah.
Awesome. So how's things at the minute then, before we get into it? You busy? What's going on?
Yeah, I was going to say I'm personally busy. I'm always busy, but just thinking of what's been happening in the economy, in the industry this last month, it's been a bit of a roller coaster where we're finding that the home buyers have switched off a little bit because they're scared that house prices are potentially moving. But I always find that whenever there's anything big national, the home buyers, the if you like, the bread and butter of what we see, dips off just a little bit, and then we've got to focus on remortgages. Well, thankfully we've had a natural stream of that anyway coming in. So
good to keep everybody busy in the company. But before we get into Forge Financial and we find out how successful it's been over the last 2 years, give us a bit of a background into how you started in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it goes back probably about 30 odd years, because my dad, they called him Steve as well, so they weren't very inventive, but it was a fun one, that one, growing up, both called Steve. But he'd been in finance since his 30s, and I've grew up in that kind of environment. Right. So went to university to study architecture, and found I didn't like it, and made a U-turn and came into finance and started working for Halifax back in about 2003, 2004, and was a mortgage advisor for a lot of that time. But was very involved in banking, savings, investments, mortgages. So quite a healthy background, but then found that there wasn't the progression within that place anymore. I think banking was on the decline. So decided in 2017 to go and work for a brokerage. I found that after a couple of years of doing that, I found, you know what, I know this enough, I can do this myself, and I did. So then it was late 2019 started the company, but started trading in June, it's probably about June 2020.
Yeah, that's what it says on your LinkedIn profile, so I'll take that as gospel normally.
Yeah, it is. It's not too far away, but it was such a strange time, because when I started to do it, COVID hit. So I just left one job and then had to survive for 6 or 7 months on my own until all of the FCA went back to the offices and approved the applications. But yeah, did you know what? It was a great 6 months.
Was it? What did you? Was it getting back into mortgage advice that you liked?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I found myself rattling a little bit at home because I wasn't really allowed to do anything, but I was kind of saving customers up for when we got there. But within that 6 months, we didn't have a lot of money at the time because there was nothing coming in. But my son was just born as well.
You had a lot going on then.
Yeah, absolutely. And that 6 months allowed me to bond with him, which was really, really good. So I had that 6 months off, if you want to call it that, a lot of business planning in the process. But then Forge just took off after that.
And when you say take off, what did it take off in terms of business? Because if I was a mortgage broker, like you say, you are sat there, you've got no leads, you've probably got a non-compete, you're sat there going, like, what do I do? How do I start? What were those first few days like? And the reason I ask you is because some people will relate with this. But also, if somebody's working in a bank or a corporate company, a bigger company at the moment, and want to take that leap, what are those first few days like?
Oh, very, very, very nerve-wracking.
Right.
Because, and I'm sure other people probably saw it because I wear my emotions on my face, but I just had belief in myself that I knew my job enough to be able to get out there and make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And I just spent the last 3 years planning this to then have those 6 months off to be able to plan it and put it in place. So that first week, we just hit the ground running because I already had this bank of customers that I knew that I was going to be calling day one to be able to get booked in. And that was just from being able to analyze it for 6 months. So I think if I've got anybody else that's doing the same, they need to be figuring out where their target market is. They need to be thinking about their advertising strategies. Really, really plan that day one so that you're not sat there twiddling your thumbs and nervous and not able to produce.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah.
What are the things that people should be planning for? So
Yeah.
I suppose planning financially, you need to make
absolutely.
sure you've got a backup savings pot in place.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you say target market, do you, there's a big talk about niche in the mortgage market. Are you talking about a specific niche or are you talking about old customers? When you say target market, what do you mean?
Yeah, so target market, I mean, probably more down to demographics. So what towns have you worked in? What marketing can you get out to those towns and in those areas to get your face on the billboards, basically, so that people realise who you are and where you've gone? And that's what I mean by target marketing. I mean, like, I think I was very lucky with my previous employers because I worked in every town in around Scunthorpe for probably about 30 miles. Wow, and so my target market was I'm not worried whether or not I'm doing a buy-to-let, a remortgage, a first-time buyer, or a home mover. I just more wanted to get my face out there because people know who I was.
So they already knew. So essentially, you built your personal brand. It didn't matter who you work for.
No.
And this is the big shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what's interesting is you're a person that talks about personal brand, but you're not big on social. Push your own face out there, are you, at the moment?
Yeah. No, not at all. No.
You've just done it face to face. You've been in people's living rooms.
Yeah.
So when you push your face out there, when you came out, how did you go about doing that?
Yeah. So when I left Halifax, I went into another company at the time. And the first thing I did was make sure that my face was all over Facebook. It was all over Instagram. You see my LinkedIn account, which I don't use too much of anymore. But I made sure that everybody knew it. Now, I also did a couple of other things because on the back of parking tickets in the local town, you could pay to get your face and your mobile number on it. And I spent and did 3 months doing that. And I probably didn't need to because then I just got inundated. I got too many leads, if there ever, which is ever a thing. But that then made me think, I can do this on my own because I'm naturally producing this.
Oh, so this was when you was with the other company?
Yeah, absolutely.
They were phoning up because of you, not because of the brand.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then that followed into Forge, but with just the 6 month quietness. I think everybody thought I'd retired at 30. But then when we went into Forge, then I just got in touch with the contacts and everybody knew where I was.
You know, when you say parking ticket, you're talking like parking fines or parking tickets?
Parking tickets, literally.
But I was going to say, not a positive thing, is it? Pay us 70 quid. If you want a mortgage, give us a call.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I ended up paying a certain amount of money for 3 months of on the back of North Lincolnshire parking tickets. There's my name and number and my picture. And that one just initially really worked.
Yeah, got them to your socials. When you were starting out, it was your own face. You were pushing yourself out there for this other company. What kind of things did you upload to social?
So the first things that I did is just made sure that everybody knew where I was. The other thing is what type of things am I doing now? What are the types of costs that you might be incurred? So I didn't put any costs on Facebook, but I wanted people to know that how do I say this? I'm not just here to take your money. I'm here to see you through the full journey. So it's more of a justification around why we charge. And everybody just took to it really, really well. Because you were being quite raw and quite honest, I suppose, weren't you? Yeah. And it wasn't generic, it was specific to you. And that's what I think as a mortgage broker starting up on your own. I know you weren't starting up on your own, but you were building your brand. Yeah. Is you've got a lot more time on your hands to do that type of stuff. Yeah. We were talking before the podcast started. Yeah, we look after your socials for your branded stuff, and you used to be quite involved uploading a lot of the personal stuff. Yeah,
you've been sitting your wealth exams for the last 13 months.
Yeah.
And you haven't had the time to upload that personal stuff, have you?
Yeah, no, not at all. No. And believe it or
know
not,
that it works.
yeah, I do, absolutely. We get quite a lot of engagement from the personal stuff, and then the messages that you create for us then back up what we're saying.
Yeah, like the professional back end of it, but you guys are there to put it out there, and your advisors are really quite productive in that way, aren't they? They're proactive in using social. So with yourself, you've obviously got your main Facebook business page.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, we're going off on a bit of a social tangent here before we get to business, but you've got your main Forge Financial, but then you've got your own Steve Urry Forge Financial, haven't you?
Absolutely,
and Michelle. So everybody's got their own separate page. How does that work in the company?
Yeah, well, I understand that it's personalities that people are attracted to and faces rather than just the company brand. So we've got the company page, and then everybody then filters out to their own individual client bank and their own markets. And I just find that works a lot better because I'm not a selfish person in knowing that a certain client belongs to the company. The company is the umbrella for everybody to flourish. So I prefer everybody to get the faces out there.
Because you know that wins more business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people buy people. Yeah.
So perfect segue now into staff. Now, staff is one of the biggest areas that I think mortgage advisors struggle with, finding good staff.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Because you've grown in 2 years from 1 to 13 staff. How do you do it? How do you find them?
Do you know, this is the strange thing? I would say that they find me. So there are some people that ask for a job that my intuition tells me potentially wouldn't be very good at it. But the good thing is that because I've been doing it, let's say 15 years, I've already got an idea of who would be good at the job and who wouldn't. And those people have approached me, or I've approached them. We've had quite a strict interview process to really figure out if they can make it through the mortgage exams, because that's one of the tough parts of it. And the people that I know that can have a great conversation with people, the people with just that little bit of a spark, they're the people I want.
So you're buying into the personality. We spoke again on before we started recording this. You do a lot of mentoring with your staff, don't you? You're always there as a sounding board.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
am I right in saying the personality?
Yeah,
the personality is something you can't teach. But you can teach them how to be a mortgage advisor.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the bit. You're right on the personality, because you don't want somebody that's very quiet with your clients, because you want them to come back to you, want them to be engaging. But the mentoring side of it, again, I'm still learning this after 15 years. It's that deep, this subject, and every case is different. But with 15 years knowledge, I can take that person with no knowledge and spend 18 months with them so that they're one of the top in the area.
Awesome. So you're based in Scunthorpe, aren't you?
Yeah.
Do you take on staff all over the UK? Or
we just started to branch out into that. So I've had people asking me that live in Manchester to come on board. I've had people further down south. And that's very good for us, because the mortgage advisors that we've got are generally based in Scunthorpe. And deal with people 30 to 50 miles around, but getting the other nuggets around the country helps us to get out to more of the population.
And how many advisors have you got at the moment? Yeah,
so in terms of mortgage advisors, I've got 6 full-time mortgage advisors.
Yeah.
There is potential for more, but it's slowed down in terms of exams and things. But these guys will come through.
So six advisors. How many support staff do you have for 6 advisors?
Yeah, we've got 2.
2 that look after their cases and progress them for them.
Yeah,
so you've built that solid foundation of staff. And what I want to get into is, what foundations did you put in place to hire 6 brokers over 2 years?
So in terms of foundation, do you know what it was? Less of a foundation and more of a need.
Okay, right.
Yeah, what I mean by that is that, again, I'm referring to previous roles, but I know in previous roles, I was working 70, 90 hours a week. And that meant seeing potentially 2 to 3 clients and having 2 to 3 interviews a day, to eventually being at the end of it and just being overwhelmed. And I could keep doing that for the next 40 years and not have much to show at the end of it apart from being burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can try and bring people in that I know that are very good at talking to people, that will be great team members, that can then come in and help me take those clients away from me to give them and me a better experience.
So instead of spending all that time on the client
Yeah.
yourself, it's having people that are trusted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
How
what,
did you-
what I'm finding it's done is that it's not given me more time, but it's improved my experience with the process.
From a manager point of view or a mortgage advisor point of view? Yeah.
Yeah, both. Because I do still mortgage advise. I do still pick up some cases, but I find that I'm able to deal more efficiently with 3 clients a week than 3 a day.
Yes.
And I've got enough of a client base to be able to help other mortgage advisors reach their potential as well.
One of the big things that a lot of mortgage brokers talk to me about is when they are at the point, so for example, when you took your first broker on, however long it was ago, and you have a client call up, Mr. Smith, and he says to you, Steve, I need to sort my mortgage.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm too busy. I'm going to pass you over to Mary, whoever it may be. Okay. How do you have that conversation? Because a lot of mortgage brokers are hesitant to almost say, I'm passing you on to somebody else. How do you instill that trust that that member of staff is just as good as you? What do you say?
Yeah, well, it's quite an interesting question because I still do have those fears. And
do you? Wow, okay.
Yeah, I still do, but actually just have the grown-up conversation with the client, because at the end of it, if I've already got 3 clients that I'm seeing that day and I know I can't give that client my full and best service, I'm going to pass him to one of the guys in the team that can, because I want them to have a better end-to-end process. And that's the conversation that I'll have with that client is that, look, apologies, I am just a little bit too busy at the moment, but can I get Alex in the team to help you out? And I'll mention Alex because he's the first one that I took on. But with Alex, the great thing is that I worked with him at Halifax.
So you know.
Yeah, absolutely. We just know each other through and through. And I took him on because he's very similar to me.
That is you giving them the service across. Yeah.
It's almost an extension of me. And same with the other guys that I've taken on as well. They're just as good as me. And I do say that to clients. I wouldn't have taken them on if they weren't a reflection of myself.
I remember when we did some training with you guys earlier on in the year, and we jumped on a Zoom call, and everybody in that team all had the same mindset.
Yeah.
And you could tell that the interview process was quite strict in a sense, not because you wanted this regimented workforce, but it was strict in the sense you wanted people to fit the team, didn't you? You weren't just hiring anybody off the street. It was you could tell that you'd particularly picked certain people to fill different roles, but also to serve different clients, because I can imagine that if a client came to you and said, oh, I need to be seen by somebody, you would, knowing that personality, you would know who would work best with that.
Yeah, it's very strange to say that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've got one client that I wouldn't give to somebody, but I've got one I would give them to somebody else.
Yeah. And it's not that anybody's better or but you think that might be a better fit, I think. And that's
some clients need more straight talk and some clients need more conversation. And I've got those different personalities in the team. So it's very good.
Would you give that as a tip to somebody trying to build a team, that you need, you don't need carbon copies of you all the time?
Yeah, I would do. Absolutely. Yeah. The biggest thing you've got to get is somebody that can talk and have a great conversation. But you don't just want carbon copies of yourself. I completely agree with that.
Because you're going to be taking different clients on, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the famous saying for people like yourself that are building this business is, it sounds really cheesy, but it is, everybody says it is, you've got to be working on the business instead of in the business.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you're really busy, how do you carve out time every week? Say, if we go back to again, when you hired your first 1 or 2 brokers, how do you carve out time to work on the business instead of in it?
Yeah. So it's a really, really good question, that, because it's something that you've got to learn. And how do I, let's just think of the consequences of not doing, first of all, because at first I didn't realize that we needed to do it. And the results are that things just start to fade. So if you're not on it, the things that you have put in place at the beginning start to erode over time.
Right.
So that's the reason why we have to do it. And the way that I do it is that once a month we'll have a directors meeting. It's booked in for every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month. That's got to happen so that we as a management team can figure things out and get it through to the team. But then genuinely, I'll work from 9 till probably 3:30 in the day in the office. I'll go home, I'll spend 2 or 3 hours with the children. Then when they're looking to go to bed, I'll come back onto the PC and start business planning then.
When the phones are quiet and there's no emails coming through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then get the messages out on the teams. But I would say that communication with you and your team is paramount.
It's interesting you talk about, I love that you say every Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month. You've obviously got certain processes in place.
Yeah.
Have you got any other processes for dealing with clients, dealing with staff? Have you got any top tips for these processes?
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing is communication.
Okay.
So, for instance, one of the biggest processes that we've got is that you know what process you've got to do to be able to get the mortgage and the client in the door, then actually get an agreement in principle done, then get the documents to get to application to eventually get an offer. And so the thing that I try and get around my team is that you all know what that process is, but does your client? Because they're the end user. And so what I've done is I built a framework around touch points to get in contact with the client so that clients aren't thinking, well, I ain't spoke to anybody in 2 weeks, what's going on? Because I find that's, if you're not in contact with your client, you lose people.
Yeah.
So I know you was mentioning about this earlier about specific systems, but we use Microsoft Planner. So I don't know if anybody's seen that.
I've not seen it, no.
But it's a board. You know, I forget the name of the board. Is it Monday.com or very similar to that?
Monday,
yeah. Microsoft have got their own system like that. And what we've got is we've got a board of agreement in principles that we're working on to move to application, to move to offer, so that people know when they're getting in contact with people.
Right.
And it tells you the dates that you've applied, the dates you got bank statements, because we've built quite a lot into it. And I find having quite a visual piece helps us to plan the processes and know. It allows me as well to see how many customers Alex is dealing with, for example, compared to another lady called Katie or Michelle, so that I can put leads that come in and clients in the right place to get the right service and timescales.
Yeah, I like that. I like that visual representation of seeing where everybody is in the process. And
it's almost like an advanced Canva board. That's the one I wanted to say.
Yeah. Instead of an Excel spreadsheet that has no visual. And let's be honest, everybody's bored of spreadsheets. Apart from Sophie, who I work with. Sophie loves spreadsheet. Sophie's the spreadsheet queen. Like I go to her and I'm like, Soph, can we do this on spreadsheet? Yep, we'll sort it. And it's incredible. It's like another language, isn't it? Excel.
Yeah.
Completely different language.
Absolutely. And you know, I've got on as well. Hi, Katie, if you do watch this. She's got an accountancy background. So that's how I ended up finding Katie. Fantastic talker, Katie, as well. But spreadsheets, wow.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, Katie, how do I do this?
Sometimes we'll be sat on like video calls if we're not in the office, and I'll be doing something. She's like, Chris, why are you doing it that way? Just press this, and it'll put all the data in for you. Yes,
puts me to shame.
Different levels. So working on the business, you make sure that you carve out time every week.
Yeah, you've got to do it.
So that's working on the business. Now let's talk about leads, because we're talking that the market is quieting up.
Yeah.
We don't rely on our back book.
Yeah.
What do you rely on in terms of lead sources? Do you have one? Do you have several?
Yeah. Do you know, at the minute, I have my existing back book. So you just mentioned that. We've got everybody in the town knows who I am. And I'm one of the go-to men in the town. I wouldn't say I'm the only one. There's about 3 or 4 of us. But do you know the biggest thing that we realised when we was coming out of COVID is that we need to get heavily back onto Facebook. And actually, would you believe I would say that you are one of our biggest lead sources in the things that you provide for us?
Oh, awesome! Fabulous.
So yeah, absolutely. I would say that is producing between 3 and 5 leads a week.
Just off social from the content that we put out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I probably naturally get between 3 and 5 customers saying, Steve, can you help me as well, which go around the greater team. So I would say it is a healthy split between you and my back book.
Awesome. And have you ever bought leads?
Yeah, do you know we have? And mixed results, because you can easily spend £1,000 and only make £1,000 back.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do is, instead of having to buy leads, is get to a place where we're actually naturally bringing these people in. And that's where your company comes into it, because I'm not spending a budget of £5,000 to bring in 10 leads.
That's it, isn't it? And I've always thought that buying the leads, there are some great companies out there, but dubious to the fact, have they been sold on to somebody else? Or where have they come in? At what stage are they at? So that you're buying a lead, but is it just an initial, I'm just looking, or is it something that is yet to nailed on lead and I'm getting a mortgage tomorrow?
Yeah, well, like out of 10 or 20 leads, you can probably talk to one person, I find.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Whereas the stuff that we do with you, they're saying to us, can we have it?
That's it. You've warmed them up, and we've been working together for like, I think, 7 or 8 months now. It's been warming people up, so they're confident in getting in touch with it. And you are a big believer in uploading that personal content to social, aren't you? Because I know your guys are. That would be taking it to the next level now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Any other social media platforms apart from Facebook that you've looked into, that you use at all, that you could benefit?
Yeah, well, we heavily use Instagram. I think that's quite well linked to Facebook. I've got Michelle who uses Instagram a lot more than potentially I would. Just, I think, more from necessity. Again, I've said in the past that I do use LinkedIn, but what I'm potentially going to be doing is using my Facebook and my Insta for the mortgage part of the business, and then I'll be using the Instagram for the very polished wealth side of the business. So that'll be coming out. Yeah, absolutely. Great. So that we're not just hammering the same area.
And why did you decide to go down the wealth route instead of trying to go on a recruitment drive? Do you know what I mean? Is it another arm to the business?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Yeah. So a couple of reasons. The other one will tie into what we've been saying, but first one is that's what my dad did for 30 years. So he had a foray in mortgages and then was a financial advisor for 30 years. So I always knew I was going to do it. But the company did need that string to the bow. And eventually then I will bring financial advisors through, because in 5 years I will have learned enough to be able to do that. But in all honesty, I had enough mortgage advisors in the company where I didn't need to really do too many.
Okay.
And I'm not one to sit on my hands. I need something to do. So actually, I needed another job to do, because I brought in the mortgage advisors that I've got that are fantastic, and they took the job off me.
I suppose you've been like successful, that you've taken it off your own hand. And before we move on to the strategy part, which I'm really interested to hear your answer, what are the goals for Forge?
Now is to keep growing steadily. So we'll probably naturally grow over these next 5 years, to the point where, again, I'm taking on financial advisors. And we'll probably find in the next 5 years that then I'm bored again. So I've got enough financial advisors that have come in that will then be doing my job. But what we might find is a natural progression from the mortgage advisors that I've got that will then train to become financial advisors, so that we can bring more mortgage advisors in.
That's a good way of thinking it. Actually, you always think about people entering the business, say, like in a support role, and training them to be mortgage advisors. But why can't you go from mortgage into financial?
Yeah,
because financial advisor can still do mortgages, can't they? That's
absolutely. I think that's the next logical step. Because what you probably find, and this is again to your wider audience, and this is the experience that I've had, is that once you've done this job for between 5 to 8 years, you've got a really good handle of the financial services industry. So the natural progression is either get out there and be a manager, or get to financial advisor, because it's a whole new ball game.
Something exciting as well. I know you say it's been a 13-month slog of all the exams and managing the business, but it's something new. It's something exciting. It's a different mindset, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and as well, you probably find that in mortgages, you've got somebody that's a little bit younger, very excitable to be able to talk to clients and conversate. And then as you start to mature in your career, you move towards the financial advisor side. And that's where you can compassionate. Yeah, you're talking to potentially people that are in the 50s and older. So you probably find in your personality you need that anyway.
So 13 staff in 2.5 years. We're talking 50 staff in 5 years.
Oh yeah, do you know that'd be absolutely fantastic? It really would.
We'll get you back on. We'll get you back on.
Yeah,
2 years,
yeah,
3 years from today, October
yeah.
31st.
See
We'll
where
get
we're
you
at.
back on.
Yeah, that'd be
Awesome.
fab.
Right, so we're going to get into the strategy question. We're going to find
Yeah.
out how you would start a new business. But before we do that, we like to give a shout out to a charity and donate £10 to a charity of your choice.
Yeah.
Which charity did you want us to make the donation to?
Yeah, to Macmillan Cancer Research, if that's okay.
Yep, definitely. We will make that fantastic charity. Right, so strategy. We're going to pretend that you've moved to the north of Scotland. You've got a laptop, a mobile phone and an internet connection. What would you do to start generating new mortgage leads, Steve?
Yeah. Do you know what I would try and take stock at the time to kind of what era we're in. And the reason why I say that is that the marketing strategy that I had in 2017 when I left Halifax was then very, very different to the one that I potentially needed in 2020 when we started this business.
Okay.
Because I would always want to get out there and let clients know who I am, what I'm about, how long I've been in the industry, what my face looks like with a big cheeky smile on it, because people are attracted to people. And I would try and get my name into as many outlets to advertise myself as possible.
Okay.
So I probably would be then moving into the Twitters of the world. I would want to look at all platforms to be able to have that solid 1 year of this is who I am and what I do. So
it will be purely for a whole year, get your face out there.
Yeah.
How would you get your face out there?
The ways that I would do it is that I would be looking to speak to local sports teams to get on the billboards. Again, I will be talking to petrol stations to see if I can get on the little because it's something
the nozzles.
Yeah, absolutely, because everybody still needs to fill the cars up. I would be getting out there and talking to the parking guys again in the council to get my name on there. I would make sure that I'd paid for boosted ads on Facebook to say this is my face and this is where I am, because I always remember starting in the other company and starting Forge, people saying, I'm sick of seeing your face on Facebook.
And so many people think that's a negative,
but
it's such a positive.
Oh, no. Yeah, I was pleased. I was like, pay more, because you know, I was really busy. And that's what's allowed me to grow this team, because I don't know if I overkilled it.
Right. But what you've done there is you're on the back of a parking ticket.
Yeah.
You're on a Facebook.
Yeah.
You're on a Facebook post. You're on a petrol pump.
Yeah.
They can't escape you, but you can never pinpoint as to which one worked.
Yeah. No, I don't know, because I just did it all. But then I found out since that I only needed Facebook.
After all that.
Or Instagram, which is why I'm with you guys.
Yeah. So you'd still go back to the traditional, get your face out there on leaflets, on bits of paper. You get it as well as social.
Well, what I would do is I would try and do as many as I can. And I'm not talking about spending £10,000 here. You're talking smaller money than that. But I would spend that 3 to 6 to 12 months of getting your face out there and then just reduce it back down.
Right, so go hell for leather.
Once people know who you are and you've seen your first 100 clients, your name naturally gets around then. And then you've just got to remind people on Facebook.
Just that consistency.
Yeah, get the 100 in and do the best job you can.
Love that. Just flood the market with your face. And you've not even spoke about a company name there. You're just my face, I'm a mortgage broker. And you haven't had any call to action with business.
No.
You've just said, I'm a mortgage broker. And what you said about social is they're coming to you now.
Yeah.
Opposed to sell. Yeah. Better
not
business.
Chasing people, which is great. But I always do try and be, you've got to be serious in this job, but to be honest, it can be quite dull at times. So I always try and have a laugh with the clients. That's one of the biggest things. And I find people naturally coming back for that. So
that's it. The friendly face, the Stevie smile. That's the one they come back for, mate.
Yeah, it is absolutely. Yeah. Ginger Steve.
And you're out there. We're gonna slowly we're gonna finish this very shortly.
Yeah.
But if people want to speak to you, you're out there, you can mentor them. You've had 15 years in the business, haven't you? Mentoring is one of your big things that you're passionate about. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Do you know, it's very, very good for me to be able to pass that knowledge on, because it was hard learned. I went all the way through the credit crunch in 2008 and was still able to mortgage advise after that. Then I've gone through COVID. There's been quite a few things in between. And what I find in the job is that there's always something changing. And specifically what I say to my team now that we've got, I'm always here. So we'll be more than happy to help mentor people.
Great. And what's the best place to get you on?
So if we can put any of my details, we've got email, telephone, even if they find me on Facebook. My face is on Facebook if you can see it. You can get me on my business pages as well.
So Steve Urry, which is U-R-R-Y. So you'll get him on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or Forge Financial page. I'm sure people.
Absolutely, yeah. If there was to put a message in on any of the channels, it would end up getting back to me. You can even go to the website, which is forgefinancial.co.uk, and there's a contact form on there.
Great to get in touch. Steve, I'm sure you'll have a few people get in touch, and I'm sure there'll be so many positive comments about this episode, Matt. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, because although you're one of our clients, I've never really had the chance to sit with you for half an hour and talk about things that are going on in the company and how you started it. Some absolute nuggets in there that people can take, especially if you're starting out in the industry. It's a blueprint of how to grow it. But Steve, I wish you all the best with the company, and thank you very much for coming on.
It's been a pleasure to come on.
Cheers. Thanks, Steve. Take care. Bye-bye.